Here we are on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. We've left the oddities of Auckland behind. Yes, not just the shape of the ground, but the slightly odd time that they started 10 minutes earlier, perhaps to allow them to switch off the lights, being in the heart of a residential area in Auckland. But we're in Hamilton. There are about a few residences around, probably about 15 people who live in all of Hamilton. But it's going to be more people there today because the cricket circus is in town, the third T20 International. And just a quick update on the news of the toss. Kane Williamson has won it again. This time, he's sorted things out from a few days ago and he's decided to ask India to bat first. Gentlemen, Zaheer Khan, Harsha Bhogle in the studio. First up, right decision from Kane Williamson?
You'd imagine after what happened in the first two games, but I think Virat said that as well, didn't he, at the toss? He said newish surface, he hasn't played on it either. Always want to bowl first when it's a newish surface, but for New Zealand it makes sense. Actually, knowing Virat as we do now, my gut feel was, it's just something telling me, because he likes to challenge himself all the time.
If he had won the toss?
If he won the toss, he would have batted and said, okay, let's throw ourselves this challenge and see. It's the sign of an achiever that they always want to challenge themselves rather than say, look, 2-0, let me make it 3-0, then let me decide. Chalo karke dekhte hain.
It sounds good, but I'll have to disagree with Harsha on that one. I know it maybe in the fourth game if India were 3-0 up, but you think he would have just gone ahead and done that?
It looked like that. I think what he spoke at the toss, he's very keen on finishing the series here.
Yeah.
He doesn't want New Zealand to come back in any way, and that's something which was very evident from that chat which he had with Dooley there. I think what he wants is that just take the momentum forward, be ruthless. I think that's the challenge which he has put ahead of the team, saying that okay, can we be ruthless? We are up in the series. There's no room for complacency. Just go out there, do the processes, and challenge ourselves with those kind of objectives from this match. And if they're continuing with that, I think they'll definitely close the series today, and that's what they should do. I think it's how many times we've seen teams coming back from 2-0 down. So you have to show that authority from today's match right from the word go. New Zealand will definitely come hard. There is no doubt about it. When you're 2 down in the series, you're always that third match. You are pumped up. You want to prove that point. But if it doesn't go your way, then you'll see a whitewash as well. So I think for New Zealand, it's the most important game. It's a mountain to climb. There is no doubt about it. But it's good to see that Indians are not taking it lightly. That complacency factor is nowhere in the vicinity, and that's a good sign for Indian team from
twice already this year they've batted first and out-batted the opposition.
Yeah.
So who knows? Let's
and
wait
of course,
and see.
same team, unchanged 11. Virat Kohli asked at the toss, any surprises for us? Are you going to throw any? He paused for a second, almost as if, yes, there are 5 changes. No, there aren't. There are no changes. Same 11, winning combination. That's what India is sticking with. Just a quick one. Is there ever a situation where you tell yourself you're actually happy to lose a toss? So that little extra pressure of trying to prove what you actually decide to do is not there.
The only time is when you are actually uncertain about what to do. But I've never understood the expression good toss to lose, because even if you're uncertain, you still got to take a decision, right? But sometimes people are uncertain, so they say, let the other guy take a call. That's the only time. Otherwise, you want to win the toss.
I just meant from a point of view of the fact that somebody else has asked you to do it. So it's not that you've said, like New Zealand last match, they batted first, so pressure was on them to perform.
Yes.
Here, India have been put into bat. So if they get 140 instead of 200, well, we were put into bat. We didn't want to do that first. Now let's try and defend
But you still have to win the game.
You still have to win the game. Of course you do. What
I
about
just think the pedigree? For the first time, I'm seeing a difference in pedigree. We'll wait and see what happens in today's game. But New Zealand have always been good opponents. The only opponent against whom India had an inferior win-loss record. But I just sense a little absence of pedigree. Maybe because Guptill and Munro, who kept giving them starts, have been a little out of form for the last few matches. Maybe that's the reason. But to see a non-Kohli, non-Rohit batsman winning games for India is very good.
Well, it's, that's the scary part for India. Out of form, and yet they've actually scored some runs. It's the rest of it. Kane Williamson and company, 1 game yes, 1 game no. They made 1 change, and this is 1 change we sort of talked about that might just happen. Scott Kuggeleijn contributes with bat and ball, can be a little sharp, comes in for Blair Tickner. So I think
Doesn't he normally bowl well when Dhoni is captain? Didn't he have a couple of good games for CSK, did he?
He did.
Scott Kuggeleijn? Yeah. But yeah, I actually thought they might play the other guy, Daryl Mitchell.
Daryl Mitchell.
Because he also bats and bowls a little bit, but obviously they want Colin de Grandhomme to have he's been a very good player for them, but he hasn't bowled an over, right? So maybe they'll get Colin de Grandhomme to bowl a little bit, though Deep Dasgupta said it's a spongy surface. Yeah. So I don't know how that'll affect.
Yeah, they have actually, remember the squad that New Zealand announced was for the first 3 T20 internationals. So they've got additional personnel coming in for the remaining 2 T20 internationals. Tom Bruce is the one who comes in for the big Zimbabwean Colin de Grandhomme. But let's continue to focus on Team India. But before that, a quick reminder, because few minutes to go for the start of the game. Remember, you have till the start of the first ball to actually make your last minute changes. If you wanted to get Scott Kuggeleijn in, this is the time to do so. With India, usual suspects, they're already in there. Get the app downloaded, make your team captain and vice captain. I'm not going to reveal anything about my team because I know there might be some seasoned opponents in there because the amount of you who are playing are growing exponentially.
Isn't he Chris Kuggeleijn's son?
He is.
Scott Kuggeleijn? Yep. Chris Kuggeleijn, who Arun Lal knows very well. I have a story to tell, I'll tell you when I have a little bit of time. But that was the world record, wasn't it? Arun Lal caught Chris Kuggeleijn bowled Richard Hadley. That's
Yes.
the only reason he came to India, when he got wicket number 374.
374.
Yeah, I was doing radio on that. Huh?
Arun Lal will always remind you of that particular one, but we want your advice once again. You've got it right with KL Rahul last time around. What about, you said Virat Kohli, maybe that didn't quite work out. So what's the My 11 Circle expert advice in terms of most number of points today with India batting first and setting a total?
So, number of runs equal to number of points, 1 wicket is 25 points.
Yeah, pretty much close to that. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but yeah, it's 1 run for a point and you get extra points for better strike rate, boundaries, 4s and 6s. No, let's make it 3-0. No, I still think, see, look, if a batsman makes 60-65, it's tough for the bowler to pick 3 wickets and go ahead. So, India batting first, I'll still go with Virat Kohli. He's got to play one big defining innings, right?
See, if you want to go safe, you go with KL Rahul.
Okay.
Because the kind of form he is in, you kind of weigh that in as well.
Does he not understand the law of averages?
Don't
KL Rahul?
No, but he's gone through a phase where
why you want to jinx it? I think
I'm not.
He's just focusing on the right things,
I'm
going
using
out
Harsha's
there,
logic.
scoring runs, staying in the zone, and I think it's something which you'll see from today's game also. So if you want to go safe with your choice, then it's KL Rahul. If you want to put your deeper analysis into perspective, then you go in with Rohit Sharma, because you can't keep the guy away from scoring runs for too long. So I think he's due. And he'll be looking at this innings with that kind of approach, saying that, okay, it's been a while I haven't gone out there and scored that 50, 70 runs. So he will be approaching the innings.
So are you taking the safe approach? Are you going KL?
No, I'm going with Rohit.
Okay, so I thought we'd have a 3-way tie over here. Then I'll take KL Rahul.
No, you must take what you want to take.
I left KL Rahul for you.
No, it's just fun to have three different.
Take what you want to take.
No, we'll go Kohli, Sharma, KL Rahul. But while this might be the cream of India's batting, India will be batting first. They've lost the toss. But a lot of focus will certainly be on the spearhead of India's attack. But for a change, before we get our experts into discussing Jasprit Bumrah, let's hear from the opposition and Martin Guptill, who'll be straight up facing Jasprit Bumrah when they chase, as to what he has to think.
Playing against one of the best death bowlers in the world. He's got a great slower ball, hits the hole pretty well, and he's got a great bouncer. So it's pretty hard to get Bumrah away at the end, and hopefully he can have 3 off nights for us coming up.
Yeah, that's what Martin Guptill said. Hopefully he can have 3 off nights. So they're obviously aware of the strengths of Jasprit Bumrah. It's not, as a personality, he doesn't come across as someone who'll intimidate you. It's all with the ball.
It's a nice line to say, I hope he has 3 off nights. But if he had 3 off nights, he wouldn't be Bumrah, no? It's like saying, I hope Virat Kohli has 3 off matches. You have to, he's
or
got...
in this case, now KL Rahul. He's the man with the...
But there's something else. I've been no cricket has fascinated me as much as Bumrah, because you look for players who surprise you. No? First time you see Bumrah, nobody thought he'll be a 10 overs bowler. Everyone thought, he's another long line of bowlers, go in, slant the ball back in. He changed that. But to me, the big moment, couple of big moments. One was when he got Chris Gayle out in the 2016 T20 final, when that ball just for the first time seemed to slant in. But then he went to Australia and started swinging the ball away, and we said, wow, man, this kid. That Australia tour in many ways was, even though he'd gone to South Africa, didn't he? He bowled well in South Africa. He'd gone to England, but that Australia tour was really when everyone sort of stood up and said, this kid is different.
And let's get a perspective from Zaheer Khan, who wears a couple of different hats as far as Jasprit Bumrah is concerned, not only as a former fast bowler, but also working closely with him in the IPL. I mean, what is it that strikes you about him and that action? Almost a staccato action, but so effective.
I think you look at anyone's career, that potential, that talent is there to start with, but what they do with that talent and potential which they have really matters. And I think Bumrah is a classic case of that, and it's a testimony to him that he's very keen learner. He's always looking at adding things, and that is very important at this level. Everyone is trying to figure things out. Everyone is planning accordingly with the help of technology and all the homework which they do. There is a lot available that there are no hidden secrets. So you have to keep evolving as a bowler. I think that's what Bumrah has been doing. So his journey of playing T20 and then ODIs to Test matches has been that one process which stayed constant, which is just adding things to his bowling all the time.
You're big into actions and biomechanics and whatever. The first time everybody saw Bumrah, they said with this action he won't survive very long because he was going wide like that, and he was, no one had seen the Tin Man action before. He was like that. And yet I remember we were chatting off screen once, and you said as an action it's not wrong because everything is moving forward properly. So because it's a very unique action, and yet you're saying it's an action that is not putting strain on his body?
See, for a bowler, it is very important that your hips and shoulder move together. I think you get in trouble when they are not aligned, and that's what usually that's the base of biomechanics. So your body has to move in a way where there is strain on the body if you're bowling. There's no doubt about it. But how you manage that and whether it's actually going to cause more problems is something is determined by how your foot positioning, to your hip alignment, to your shoulder alignment, because that's how body moves. And with him, you can see that those hips and shoulders are aligned nicely. So that is something makes him risk free. So in my head, there was not ever a single doubt that Bumrah will have issues with his injuries which are action related. I don't think his injuries are action related. Every bowler at some stage, because of the workload and the other factors and the forces going through the body, just by the action of bowling, will be there. Those kind of injuries you can manage. You can have a lot of help around that. But I don't think he's going to have any troubles which are related to action because he's nicely aligned in
that one that was slanting. I mean, Ishant Sharma bowled that ball for so many years. Whereas this kid, within a couple of years, within a year, he was getting the ball to straighten. Soon he was getting the ball to leave. And then the swing arrived. With that action, a lot of people thought, he'll find it difficult to swing the ball. He'll probably be a hit-the-deck bowler. But from that action, did you see any change in when he started to bowl the outswinger?
Not much. I think, what has changed with him is the timing of his delivery. And you say that whippy action. And that requires that timing, where you are putting your wrist also into your delivery. And that is something which he has actually mastered now. And as a bowler, when he mastered that, he was a completely different bowler, and that's where he started getting that ball away from the right-hander, which the first time we saw in the Nidahas trophy in Sri Lanka. And as a bowler, if you're able to do that with that awkward angle coming back into the right-hander and just straightening or taking the ball away from right-hander with that action, then you always asking batsmen tough questions, and that's what Bumrah has been doing, and that's what his main reason of success in the longer format. And to add to that, he has got that nice economical run up, which helps him bowl those longer spells as well. Which in my case, I figured later. That also makes a huge difference. So I think for his success in Test matches is purely dependent on how he has developed that control over deliveries which are coming back into the right-hander and going away as well.
I mean, I'm just going to finish off with that before we look at his numbers, and you sort of touched upon it, the economy of his run-up, the fact that he bowls from a relatively short run-up, A, in terms of injury, but B, in terms of the momentum that he gathers, that doesn't hinder him in any way, in your opinion?
Not at all.
If anything, you're saying it gives him longer spells.
What's his strength is that braced front leg, and when he's delivering the ball is on top of that front foot, and that's what gives you more power at the crease. and he's been doing that. So it's not about the run up, how far you're running in from. If that was the case, you would have seen all the bowlers coming running in from the boundary line.
There was a time.
So everything has to sync, I think, and every individual is different, So and that's what makes bowling also interesting, So it's not that one size fits all. You have to develop your style and you have to stick to your strength. That's how cricket is played. You look at batsmen as well. Not everyone is going to hit those fancy cover drives or the pull or hook shot.
Or the
you have
weird
to
shots
figure
that
out
we see now.
what comes naturally to you, and then stick to your strength and evolve from there. And that's what Bumrah has been doing.
I think that's a good way to sum him up in a sense. One size fits all, unique. Not someone from the 70s. You'd expect bowling from almost the side screen, where the theory used to be that the faster you bowl, the longer you run up from, the quicker the delivery will ultimately come. But the numbers actually support that. Particularly, we're talking about T20 cricket. We're talking about the 16 to 20 death overs. And we often refer to, especially on our show here, which are the tougher overs to bowl. And Bumrah always has those tough overs, and yet he comes up with this economy rate against the best in the world, and he's right up there.
Yeah, and that's incredible. I wonder if we are starting to get, in the light of what Guptill said, what we used to call the Sunil Narayan effect in the IPL, saying, let's play this guy out. But what this means when you're chasing is, if he's got 2 overs left, then you need to budget to be higher than where you would otherwise be if you think he's not going to give you those runs. I mean, he's bowled a 4-run over, he's bowled a 3-run over.
In the
18th in recent times. So I just wonder if people are starting to say, let's try and attack the other end and see out this end. I'm starting to wonder if that is happening.
Oh, it certainly should happen, because you've got to be ahead of the game. Because in terms of his records, if you have a look at his records since January 2019 at home, this is New Zealand in T20Is. We'll come back to that, but let's just stick to Bumrah for the moment. I think that New Zealand record, in a sense, might be affected by Jasprit Bumrah's performances. But for now, let's stick to Jasprit Bumrah since 2019 and just have a look at these economy rates and compare them to the rest of the bowlers, which is what makes this set of numbers very interesting. Because in context of a game, Bumrah's going for 8, everyone's going for 9. But look at this.
I mean, it's so stark. Look at the 4 and 7. The first one against Australia, it's 4 and 7. Then come back to the second from bottom, under 8 versus 10.5. 10.5 means it's obviously a really good batting ground. So there, if you go under 8 and over, bowling the tough overs, you're doing really well. There was that one game against Sri Lanka there, the third game. I think we were in the studio here as well. And it was a tail-end batsman who was getting top edges and swinging his bat wildly. Otherwise, when the last 3 balls started, he was 1 for 20 there.
3 balls, 3 fours at the end.
He was on a 5 economy rate. So there's just something different about him. And that's the other thing I've not understood. After a while, with the analytics today, everybody analyzes bowlers to death, right? They know the dusra ke liye ungli upar jati hai type of analysis, which one he goes wide, where his head moves, whatever. So they know everything that is to be known about Bumrah now, and yet they can't pick him. There's something about that release with the slower ball, with the wrist, that they're not able to pick him till too late. Are they almost playing him off the deck rather than knowing which way it's going?
No, I think it's the angle which he creates. It's more to do with that. So even if you know that the ball is coming into you with that angle, you're still not able to align yourself, because you don't know how far in it's going to come. So as a batsman, you have to pick that line, and then that line is never sure. Like you've seen with and particularly in the first spells, you'll see a lot of batsmen looking to play him inside the line, but you don't know how far in the ball is going to come, and that's what. Yeah. So even if you know that the most of the deliveries which he's been bowling is coming in, you don't know to what degree it's going to come in, and that's what makes it difficult. End of the day, batting is about judgment, isn't it? Yeah. So you have to pick that line, and then if you're sure of that length and line, then only you can do that damage. Yeah. And that's the advantage which he has over the other bowlers. So even if you know that, okay, he bowls a good slow one, he bowls that delivery which comes back into you as a right-hander, and he bowls a good bumper. But still, to be pinpoint with accuracy in terms of picking that, never going to be easy, and that's what makes him.
When you're playing spinners, you watch, like sometimes when the wrong and this finger automatically goes up. There's something in the hand, something that maybe the left shoulder just drops a little, and you can pick the googly. With fast bowlers, when you're bowling the Yorker, it's an effort ball, isn't it? The Yorker is always an effort ball. Yeah. Can you see something in the delivery stride that says he's putting in more effort? This one's likely to be the Yorker.
No, you can pick it from the release point, because Yorker is the first point of release for any bowler. So batsmen usually look to pick that, and if you are set for that, then that makes things easier, which is the case with most of the batsmen trying to pick any delivery. Even if you know that, it's just the timing and the angle matters, and if there is a hint of swing, then that makes it even more difficult. So I think that's usually the case with the batsman looking to pick the deliveries. So Yorker is always going to be the first point of release. But even if you know that, in that moment to pick it at that pace with the angle, it's always the challenge, which and the skill of batsmen. It's all product of that.
Sorry, we got carried away a little bit. I'm also
the good thing about this masterclass
is
is
that Bumrah fascinates me so much.
the New Zealand batsmen, no matter whether they would like to not, are not tuned into My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live, or they'll be picking up a lot of tips as to what to do. They're already busy getting all set for the game, even though they don't have the pads on. It's India who will have their pads on. But in terms of New Zealand and their record, we briefly touched upon it, and we came in. And let's have a quick look again at that. This is their record at home. Now, we often talk about fortresses, we often talk about how strong they are at home. And you can just see that New Zealand in T20Is at home since Jan 2017, other than Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, haven't exactly been as invincible as we thought.
They've lost to Pakistan as well. They've lost to Pakistan, Australia, South Africa. It's an amazing stat, that, because you always thought New Zealand is like tough.
No matter what the format.
Yeah, and these numbers are saying, no, it's not a bad place to go and win.
But what we did see is, you'd have to admit that some of their big stars, say someone like a Lockie Ferguson, who was playing a year ago when we were here, Matt Henry, Trent Bolt, obviously the impact bowlers, missing players like that who are all impact players. Their version of Jasprit Bumrah, mini Jasprit Bumrah.
It's like saying no Bumrah, no Shami, no Bhuvi. Now go and play. It's pretty much like that. Matt Henry, of course, a name not to be taken after that semi-final. We don't like Matt Henry. But I mean, people didn't know. He'd gone to England and he'd done remarkably well in England before that World Cup. He was a very English conditions kind of bowler. So it is a bit like that. But while New Zealand are a good side, the one thing New Zealand don't have, because of the size of their country and the number of players playing, is depth. And so if you lose three key bowlers, it's not easy to come back that strongly with backups.
Yeah, it certainly isn't, and New Zealand will have the challenge. They'll have the only thing going for them today, once again, a reminder that they've won the toss. Kane Williamson this time has reversed his decision from Auckland, and he's asked India to bat first. So all to play for there, but just a bit of a teaser before we wrap up the show, and that is our joy factor question. The standards have been getting higher and higher from Joy Bhattacharya. What does he have in store for us today? And here we are. On which cricket records list are Sunil Gavaskar, Mark Waugh and Sachin Tendulkar exactly the same position, with Ricky Ponting just above and Barry Richards and Javed Miandad just below? Well, one thing's for sure, it's not got anything to do with T20 internationals. Safely, you can say that.
Yeah, but it's not to do with test runs. It's not to do with test hundreds, because Barry Richards won't come on that list.
Yeah, well,
it's not to do with
something worth
openers.
Pondering. Averages may be too close, but again, hashtag Cricbuzz Live. This is the time to put your thinking caps on and get your answers in as quickly as possible. That's the mantra. But just like we put our thinking caps on when we try and predict, in a bit of fun, what the total might be for India at the end of the 20 overs. That, the winner of which will sit on the My 11 Circle expert couch, which has been rotating between these two gentlemen. So
hurts, doesn't it?
It does. It
hurts,
does,
doesn't it? It hurts.
All in good
I
spirit.
can see it's hurting.
This time around, are we looking? Which side of 200 are we all leaning, gentlemen?
I thought if you go by Deep's pitch report, which said a little spongy bounce, he said little softish, and the fact that India have not played on that for a while, openers will take time. I'm going little under. I'm going 171.
Well, that's a lot under.
168, 171.
I was going a little closer to that.
I know it's slightly below par for, actually I'll change that, 178. Chalo.
Okay. I was going to go 191.
He has left me last.
You know why?
I didn't get
Last time after both of us.
But that's okay. You have the advantage. Sometimes going last has the advantage.
185.
Kya karega?
I'm going 185.
Squeezed in between there.
Exactly.
Fair enough. That's okay. squeeze the preview.
They
So
have
we
a better
don't have
record at Hamilton than they have at Auckland, so I'm fancying
I'm
them a little
listening to
bit.
the average scores.
yeah, we
which
don't have a
been talked about.
huge spread, so which is always good at times, but it means we are very focused into where we think India will be. Maybe the power play will tell us a bit of a story at the 6-over mark, but of course 4 overs after that, at the 10th over, we'll assess things on Cricbuzz Combox and be back at the mid-show with plenty to talk about, including a very special anniversary of Cricbuzz Live, because it's been 2 years and 2 days since the first episode of Cricbuzz Live went on air. We're going to talk a little bit about that, celebrate that, but we'll do that when we come back later on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.